How's everybody doing? God bless. We finished. We finished Genesis yesterday. So today's Exodus intro. I'm gonna read the intro that I got right here on this. This the NIV Holy Bible. I'm just gonna read the introduction today, and we'll start on Exodus 1 tomorrow. But today is Exodus intro, Tuesday 5-5-20. And yesterday on the end of Genesis, we read Joseph buries Jacob / Israel, his father. Joseph assures his brothers he forgives them. Joseph dies and is buried. So that's what we read yesterday. Here's the introduction to Exodus. It might be short. Exodus. The books of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers continue the story of how God formed the nation of Israel to play a special role in his plans for the whole world. When the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, God came to them and worked powerfully through Moses to deliver them. At Mount Sinai, God revealed his laws to Moses, including the 10 Commandments, and confirmed his covenant with the young nation. Israel built a tabernacle, or tent of meeting, so that God could live among them. The people then traveled through the wilderness of the land of Canaan. The boundaries between the books of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers are not sharply drawn. The key structure throughout the books relates to the various places the Israelites stopped on their journey. Each location is noted, and the events at each one are described. The key location of Mount Sinai, the second half of Exodus, all of Leviticus, and the beginning of Numbers describe what took place there. Leviticus specifically contains the laws and regulations the Lord gave to Israel. Numbers reports how the people were organized into a fighting force and moved toward the promised land. Numbers reaches back across Leviticus and Exodus and repeats the phrase that structures Genesis. This is the account of the family line of Aaron and Moses. Appropriately, we hear this phrase for the 12th time as the 12 tribes are being organized into a nation. Near the end of Numbers, the prophet Balaam says to Israel, "May those who bless you be blessed, and those who curse you be cursed." This recalls God's promise to Abraham in Genesis. "I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you will curse you." These references show that together these books tell a single story of the beginning of God's redemptive work in the world. So that's what we're going to be reading about in Exodus. Everything in the Bible is important. Pick it up, read it. Every day you'll learn something new every time. But that's it for today. But actually, since that was kind of short, I'm gonna read. I don't think I read the intro to Genesis last time, so I'll read what Genesis was about, since I didn't do it in the beginning. So this is what it says for Genesis. Genesis and the other books of Moses, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, introduce the continuous story of Israel running through the first quarter of the Bible. Genesis is traditionally attributed to Moses, the one who led the people of Israel out of Egypt. Genesis explains how one nation comes to have a special role in God's plan for all humanity. Early on, the order of harmony of God's good creation are overwhelmed by the destructive consequences of human rebellion and pride. That's important. Pride is no good, man. And rebellion against God, no good. The violence, injustice, and suffering that follow lead God to condemn and restrain human wickedness through the judgment of the great flood. God then makes a covenant with Abraham and his descendants, providing an ongoing framework for the story. The family of Abraham, Israel, will be God's chosen means to bring the nations back to himself. Genesis closes with Abraham's descendants having grown into a league of large tribes, but they are not in the land God has promised them. So the story leads naturally into the books that follow. The book is divided into 12 parts by 11 repetitions of the phrase, "This is the account of." Each section is about the life and family of the person named. These are woven together to document the story of human history and the beginning of God's plan to restore humanity and their place in the world through Israel. So that was Genesis. That's what we read about before, but I forgot to read that in the beginning, so I'm going to read the beginnings every time. Tomorrow's Exodus 1. God bless everybody. Stay safe. God bless.